The other thing about our hotel, which I didn't tell anyone because, and I didn't even tell my friends, was, so one night, me and Ped and Oz and a couple other people, were outside, and Oz and the other people went inside to, go get something. And it was me and I think Xylus outside or something. And I just come out there, and there was a man stood next to the door that we came out of and that they went back in. He'd come out right after they went back in, and he was smoking a cigarette. And I did a double take of the man because it was Tim Downey, who plays Gale Dicarios in Baldur's Gate. And I was like, that's Tim. That's Tim. He is here. And I just was like, what the fuck? So, most of, if not all, of the people for the Baldur's Gate panel that were at TwitchCon stayed at the hotel I was staying at. So, I saw Tim and Theo, who plays Will. I saw them, like, after that. That was, I think, like, maybe Friday night or something. So then Saturday morning and Sunday morning, or it was, like, Sunday morning and Monday morning, I saw Tim and Theo at breakfast each morning. Theo, so ripped, so cool. I pointed him out to Ped, and I was like, oh, that's Will. And he's like, bro, he's fucking ripped. And so lucky for them to get to see the boba. I'm so jealous of them. So while I was outside and I saw Tim, I was like, what the fuck? And he was out there, I think, by himself, and he wasn't talking to anybody else. He was just smoking a cigarette. So I was like, here we go. And so I went up to him and I was like, Tim? And he, like, looked at me and he's like, hello. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you. And we shook hands, and I was like, oh, I'm Boba, I'm here and I'm doing TwitchCon. And he was like, oh, and then we were just chatting a little bit, and I was like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. Like, my friend met you at a convention and they got me a signed photo from you, and that was really nice, which is right here. And Fox and Bento got me that, and it is signed from Tim. And he's like, oh, that's so nice. And then he was like, oh, what are you getting up to? And I was like, oh, you know, I'm going to TwitchCon. I've been going around Rotterdam. It's really nice. And I was just chatting about that a little bit. Our Smurf, thanks for the 2 months. Welcome in. And then, so I was just talking to him like normal. And then I was like, oh, what are you getting up to around here? And he's like, I was like, are you here for the convention? Because I hadn't looked at any of the panels or anything. Because I was like, I don't know how busy I'm going to be. And I don't know, most of the time the panels at TwitchCon are things I'm not super interested in, so I hadn't looked at them. And there's a Baldur's Gate panel that was, I think, going to be the next day or something. So he's like, oh yeah, you know, we're here for TwitchCon and just enjoying going around Rotterdam and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. And then, of course, I was like, very conscious. I did not want to be cringe. So I was like, oh, it was very lovely meeting to you. You know, I hope you enjoy your time. And I went back to talking to Xylus. And Lewis was out there. And before Tim went inside, I went over to Lewis and I was like, oh my god, Lewis, that's Tim. He plays Gale. He's so cool. And Lewis was like, oh, really? And he's like, did you ask him for a picture? And I was like, no, because first of all, I don't know. I wanted to be very polite because obviously he was not like doing a Baldur's Gate thing outside of the hotel. And also I didn't want him to feel uncomfortable at the hotel that he was staying at. So I was like, no, I did not ask for a picture with him. But the reason I told Lewis, I was like, I romanced him in a video game and I felt weird I would feel weird asking for a photo. I don't know. And I know I didn't romance him in a video game, but Tim's voice is like so extremely similar to how he voices Gale that like afterwards I was like, oh my gosh, I was basically talking to, you know, like someone who is very, very similar in voice to a video game character that I fucking have spent so many hours playing. But he was so nice, and we just talked about normal stuff. I didn't even mention the game at all, and I was like, should I have told him how cool I think he is and stuff? Or because I look at their I see their TikToks and stuff. Like, I watch Tim's shelfies and stuff. The VA director has this running gag for over a year where apparently all the voice actors keep threatening her if she doesn't promote only their character. That's so funny. You are fine talking to Lewis after you wrote so many Lewis X Simon fanfics. That's true. Do you want to get into voice acting? Keep trying to get Boof because I wanted the accent, but she's chicken. You'd be great. I don't know. I feel like maybe, but then I'm like, I don't know what I would do, and I don't know if my voice is necessarily something that people would want in a video game. And I know I can do different voices and stuff, but oh yeah, I need to put Cameo back online. I've forgotten to do it since I got here. I'll need to put a note down to remind myself to do that. But yeah, and then so after I talked to Lewis for a moment, and then I sat down next to Xylus and I was just chatting to him, and then Tim went back inside. And then not too long later, Oz came out, and I was like, Oz! She's like, what? And I was like, Tim Downey is here, Gail Decarios. And she freaked out. She was like, what? And she was like, Tim is here? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh my god, I'm so sad I missed him. And so then later on, we saw him again and he was inside, so Oz got to go in and say hi to him, so that was nice. What did Torb say? Baby voice for a full game. It's possible, Torb, it's possible. So yeah, it was really cool. I met him, I said hi to him, and then I did go to the panel, and they answered my question, which was nice. She was wasted and tripped over and spilled wine all over his face. She did not. She just was very much like, poor Oz was very starstruck. I think I didn't have the time to feel starstruck because I was so caught off guard that it was him, and that I was seeing him in a place where I was not expecting him to be at all, that I just was like Boba Normalman. And then you know, I didn't approach any other people while we were there, because even though I saw Theo, I was like, most of the time I saw him, he was like sat down eating breakfast or something, or him and Tim were in like the queue for like the breakfast stuff, and I didn't want to be like, hey Tim, remember me when I talked to you the other day? Now we're friends, because we're not. So I just left them alone after that. But afterwards I was like, oh my god, did anything I say was weird? Should I have said something about the video game and be like, wow, I love you in a video game? But then when I was watching the panel, he had said, like, you know, they talked about getting recognized and stuff, and he goes, a lot of times I'll be speaking and someone will recognize me by my voice. I don't really get recognized by my face. So I was like, yes, I hope he felt cool, because I recognized him by his face, because he was outside not talking to anyone, not speaking to anyone, so I didn't even hear his voice. And so I hope maybe he was happy about that, but I don't know if he cared or not, but he was very nice.